Okay, guys, welcome in. It is PFF's live free agent reaction video Wednesday morning, and this is the Tom Brady hour right here because the news that Tom Brady is going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is basically all anybody's going to talk about, and we're going to be a little bit different. We're going to start off that way and then transition into some other things. So let's start up top because this is the thing that I've been concerned about all the way along. Is Tampa Bay actually Tom Brady's best football fit? So from a schematic point of view, from a personnel point of view, is that the place he should have ended up, Solomon? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm all in on this one. In fact, early on, as going back as early as the Super Bowl, I thought this would be a good fit. I love the coaching in terms of Tom Moore and B.A., Bruce Arians. People don't think Tom Brady can get the ball down the field, but I'm telling you, he'll still be able to drive the ball down the field. He'll be able to work the intermediate part of the field. He's got diversity in terms of his wide receivers with Godwin and Evans. If Rashad Perriman comes back or if they bring in another player, they still will have diversity with that wide receiver. And then the tight ends, Cameron Brate is maybe a forgotten guy here because he's been more productive than O.J. Howard, who I think gets better with the arrival of Tom Brady. And Ronald Jones is capable of catching the ball out of the backfield. So they have everything you want, everything you need, and a defense that for the second half of the season, they were the third best coverage unit behind the Patriots and the San Francisco 49ers. So Todd Bowles really was beginning to shape that defense, and we know they can put pressure on the opposing quarterback. This is going to be a great fit, going to give Tom an excellent opportunity to get back into the postseason in 2020.
I'm with you, Solomon. This is a fantastic fit for Tom Brady. I don't care that Bruce Arians gets aggressive. I think Tom Brady can be aggressive. You look at the average depth of target for Bruce Arians quarterbacks in previous years. It's in that 9 to 11 range. Jameis Winston up over 10.8 last year. I think Tom Brady can get to that level with this receiving core. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, 2 top 10 receivers according to PFF receiving grade. I mean, he's got talent there. The offensive line is better than what it was in New England. And I'm glad you brought up the defense, Solomon, because I think it's a defense that's invested in the secondary with Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Jamel Dean. They've got some cornerbacks, some young cornerbacks that can actually make plays in the secondary, and they're going to continue to invest in the defense as we go forward. And you mentioned they may be bringing another receiver. We see reports that maybe Antonio Brown's making the trip to Tampa Bay. I'm all on board, baby. Give me Antonio Brown, him split snaps in the slot with Chris Godwin. I'm ready. TB12, Antonio Brown. Let's get it going.
We can't have that happening unless Hard Knocks also goes to Tampa Bay and they remove the filters this time. No censors, all Antonio, all Bruce Arians, all TB12 all day. I'm there for that. I'm with you guys in that I think from a personnel standpoint, it's a great fit. I think those 2 wide receivers, the defense heading in the right direction. I just don't love the schematic matchup between Bruce Arians' offense and Tom Brady. And I know you're right, Solomon. Tom Brady can push the ball down the field, but it's clearly not what he's best at. And, a lot of people have made the point that, of course, Bruce Arians can tailor his offense to the quarterback that's there, and it'll be a different system for Tom Brady than it was for Jameis Winston. And I think it's true. He definitely can tailor his offense. It's just that throughout his entire career, he's never shown any inclination to do that. So I don't know that this will be the year that Bruce Arians suddenly decides to modify what it is he wants to do on offense because he's got Tom Brady in the building. I think those two are going to have this feeling out period of what the sort of sinking of Tom Brady's play style with Bruce Arians' offense looks like. And I'm unconvinced so far as to what exactly that's going to produce.
Well, I think it's going to produce some spectacular results. Tom Moore and Bruce Arians, I think people have to go back to the origins. They've worked together for a long time. They were the coaching staff that was working on the offense in the early days when Peyton Manning came into the league in 1998. And they were wholeheartedly on board with turning the offense over to Peyton Manning. In fact, they taught him and groomed him to be the kind of quarterback that you've got to be able to come in and tell us what you want to do so that we can build a game plan each and every week tailored to what you want to do based on what the opponent's going to give us. So they do have great diversity when it comes to their scheme, but more importantly, they have empowered quarterbacks to run the show because they believe that the quarterback is the trigger man. They never will send him into the huddle with less than 3 plays that the quarterback can go to at the line of scrimmage. They will equip Tom to do all the things that he's always done and much more. So I'm liking this marriage because this is not a coaching staff that has so much pride and so much ego that they're going to shoehorn Tom into an offense that he's not comfortable with.
I agree.
All right, so let's talk about exactly how good this makes the Bucs. Are they now a legitimate top Super Bowl contender? Are they one of the best teams out there, one of the favorites? Austin, how high do you rank this team? I don't think they're quite at that Super Bowl favorite level. I think there are too many other top-end teams throughout the NFL, whether it's the Kansas City Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens. But I think it puts them right there in contention to win this division, make the big dance, and then anything can happen.
Yeah, I don't see them as Super Bowl favorites, but they're definitely top 5 Super Bowl contenders. Tom Brady is always a top 5 Super Bowl contender. Now you pair him with Bruce Arians and this offense. It's a better offense than what he had with the New England Patriots. I know they had a good defense, but offense wins in the postseason. I think Tom Brady, a very special player, is going to come to Tampa Bay, make this offense better, make this team better. And it's a tough division with Drew Brees coming back, but I do think he can win that division. He can get into the postseason and make some plays there. I think this offense gets a lot better. This team gets a lot better. It's a lot of the eyes will be on the defense improving, but like I said before, I really am betting on this secondary taking the next step. It's a very young secondary that performed very well down the stretch, as Solomon highlighted. I really do like this team as a top 5 Super Bowl contender in 2020.
The secondary was the most vulnerable part of the defense last year, and to the tune of our 3rd highest rated coverage unit for the final 8 games of the season, behind 2 great coverage teams in the 49ers and the Patriots. We already know they can generate pressure. They were one of the best in the National Football League at it 1 year ago with Shaq Barrett and Ndamukong Suh. They are really good. They're going to be even better with JPP as well. So the defense, who was ranked number 1 in terms of stuffing the run, I think we're looking at a totally different Buccaneers team the second half of the season than what we saw at the beginning of the year. They were essentially 1 game away from making the playoffs, and that's with a quarterback that turned the ball over 30 or more times if you count the fumbles and interceptions. Now they get a quarterback that shows up, that knows how to protect the ball and put points on the board, who knows how to generate big-time throws in the passing game. There's no doubt this team is poised to make the postseason, and I think if you just count the teams on the NFC side of the ledger, whether it's the Vikings, whether it's Seattle, whether it's the 49ers, or whether it's the LA Rams, I think we can have the conversation that the Buccaneers are part of it. I know this is still early in the process. Most people didn't even think Tom Brady would even pick a team like the Buccaneers. But if you go back and look at the tape, the final 8 games of last season, you will see that the Buccaneers had already turned the corner as a team. They only had a quarterback who held them back. Now they got a quarterback who I think is going to propel them forward.
So that's a great point, right? The Bucs have taken this giant leap forward because they've changed the most important position in the NFL, but it's still early in the process. Free agency hasn't even opened yet, technically. So we still have all of the offseason to go. Do they need more help to become the Super Bowl contending team? And if so, where should that help come from? Austin.
Yeah, I think they do need some help. I think adding another receiver doesn't sound crazy to me. I mean, if it is Antonio Brown, it makes things a lot of fun. But bringing someone in the slot that can dominate, I don't know how much I love O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate. They're both good players, and Tom Brady makes those guys better. But I still think he needs that kind of security blanket, that guy that roams the middle like a Julian Edelman, Wes Welker, etc. Bringing someone in the slot, not Rashad Perriman, someone who is a crafty route runner that's always open, finding his ways, catching footballs and all of those things. I really do think that's what Tom Brady needs. That's what the Bucs can add on offense. I don't think they need Melvin Gordon. Do not sign Melvin Gordon to this monster contract because you're going all in on the offense. I think you can win with Ronald Jones. And on the defensive side of the ball, I think there's room to add to that pass rush. Shaq Barrett got tagged, and Ndamukong Suh still a free agent. JPP re-signed, but I think you can add to that pass rush unit. There's other players available. Maybe attack that in the draft. I think the defense needs more help than the offense, but a security blanket for Tom Brady and maybe some added pass rush on the defense side of the ball would be really nice for Tampa Bay right now.
Yeah, you can never have too many coverage linebackers, right? And Levante David is exceptional. I think to add more depth there, certainly more depth in the secondary. They're going to have to continue to improve because it's a young group in the secondary that took huge steps. I'm telling you, Carlton Davis is the name to remember. I think he's going to be the player that a lot of people are going to be talking about in the 2020 season because for the second half of 2019, the kid exploded and he took the number one receiver on the opposing team each and every week when they sent Vernon Hargreaves packing. So Carlton Davis is the name to remember because this guy's got all the length. He's got the size to be a shutdown corner working with Todd Bowles. I think he'll live up to expectation. I would like to see them add one of the young receivers in the draft, a guy you can put in the slot. The kid that I really like, because I don't think you have to take him in the first or second round. I think Tyler Johnson from Minnesota. Here's a kid that's highly productive who cannot be stopped when it comes to creating yards after the catch, when it comes to punishing secondary members. The kid is phenomenal. Bruce Arians will love him. And you're not going to have to use a day one pick to get him. He's a guy that took the University of Minnesota, put him on his back, and he carried them for the entire season and the entire time that he was there. Just one of the names to look out for in the upcoming draft.
I think that the Bucs need to add some offensive line help. I know what you're saying, Solly, that there was a better line last season than the Patriots, and I think that's probably true. I think part of that was that the Patriots line looked worse than it really was because of the lack of receivers. But ultimately, I think what we saw last year from Tampa Bay was that unit playing above the level that they're capable of long term. Donovan Smith at left tackle has been a liability for a lot of his career, had a pass blocking grade last season of 77. My guess is that will regress again. Right tackle, right guard, the right side of that offensive line is a little bit of a question mark to me. DeMar Dotson was a free agent this offseason. Alex Kappa, right guard. I don't know how much I trust those two. And the offensive line in this scheme with Tom Brady, who's not mobile, even compared to a guy like Jameis Winston, is going to be important. I think you need to solidify the offensive line, whether it's adding bodies in free agency for, a contingency, whether it's attacking the fact that that's a really strong position in the draft, and make sure that with all these receivers and with Tom Brady in place, you have some absolute legit pass protection in front of them.
Real good stuff. By the way, we ratified the collective bargaining agreement. It kicks in this year. Teams get to have 8 offensive linemen dressed out on game days. I can't tell you how that makes coaches happy, how it makes quarterbacks like Tom Brady happy. You typically would go into a game with maybe 6, maybe 7 guys, and they would have to be a swing guy that plays multiple positions on the offensive line. Now you can go in to a game with 8 guys fully dressed. I can't tell you how big that is for NFL offenses.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, we kind of buried him a little bit earlier just as a side gig to the Tom Brady talk, but Jameis Winston, who now no longer has a starting job, Cam Newton, which guy would you want to be starting for you in 2020 if you still had a hole at the quarterback position, Austin?
I'm going Jameis, baby. I know Cam Newton's great and all, but I think the injuries concern me. I think if I want to play Cam Newton to the best of his abilities, it's going to be a high injury risk type of style. I think I'm going to play Cam Newton where I'm running the football with him. He's lowering his shoulder and doing those things. And I just don't know if his body is ready for that role. What I do know, Jameis is ready for a role right now. I know he threw 30 picks this past season. That's a big number that gets highlighted. But with the right offensive coordinator, with the quarterback whisperer, Bill Belichick, I think Jameis Winston can do all of the right things and very few wrong things. I think Bill Belichick gets the best out of the quarterbacks he plays with. You've seen that with Jacoby Brissett, Matt Castle, and others that have been in his system. Bring Jameis to Foxborough, and let's go pursue another ring. Imagine Jameis beating Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. Let's go. I am so excited about this move. I think Jameis in New England, let's do it.
Yeah, I got to tell you, though, as a former NFL defensive back, Jameis Winston is the kind of quarterback you love to play against. And because you spend the entire week on the jugs machine getting your hands ready because you know he's going to throw you one. All you got to do is catch it. And in practice, it's always coming right back at him. Guys are picking him off and taking him back. No, I think you'd rather go into a game if you're a coach with a Cam Newton, much more diversified in terms of his skill set, in terms of what he can do to help you win a game. We all know Cam's not the most accurate passer. I think his PFF passing grades are going to reflect that. but that's why he can still become an MVP despite the inaccuracies, despite not being very good when it comes to having a high completion percentage. He's got a number of ways to help you win a ball game, and yet he doesn't turn it over. He's never been a real high turnover guy. We all know that the one thing about quarterbacks or about offensive football, the guy who turns the ball over is a liability. And so I think Cam is a much greater asset at the quarterback position, so he's my choice there.
You think, Austin, that Bill Belichick is going to go from like 20 years of one of the most careful, considered quarterbacks in the NFL and sign up for YOLO Jameis Winston for the next year?
Jameis Winston can do the high end. Jameis Winston can do the high end. We've always said that he's a very volatile, high-risk, roller coaster type of quarterback, and it's always been, is there a coach, is there an offensive coordinator that can get that low end or less of the low end out of his game? And I think it's Bill Belichick. It's either that or tank for Trevor Lawrence, because Andy Dalton's not taking you to the playoffs. Derek Carr, if you trade for him, is not taking
Jameis Winston's not taking you to the playoffs. He's going to take you to the geriatric club because you're going to age instantly. It's like having Jameis Winston as a quarterback is like becoming president of the United States. You age rapidly. I mean, the pictures of you just go more gray hair with every photo. I don't think Bill's signing up for that one.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Solly. I think ultimately, look, I don't know that I want either of these guys. If I'm forced to choose between one of them, I'm going to take Jameis because he's younger and you get at least confident that he isn't physically broken down. But the question I have is, where are they playing? Because I don't think Bill Belichick wants to sign up to one of these two guys, given what he's just left. I think he's going to be closer to tanking for Trevor Lawrence or having some kind of conservative stopgap that he thinks he can get the best play out of. After that, what's left? The Bears are desperately hunting around for a quarterback. I don't know that they want one of these two guys. The Chargers maybe, but they're going to be positioned for the draft. Miami is going to be looking for the draft. I just don't see the destinations for these two guys, particularly when you consider with Cam, you're going to need to trade something to get him. So, I mean, maybe Jameis Winston can snag one of these last starting jobs and somebody takes one more roll of the dice to try and get the high-end Jameis and not on the bad end. But it seems like it's just asking for trouble.
You could send, right now, you could send a roll of toilet paper to the Panthers and they'd give you Cam Newton. Okay? You could send a fifth-round pick. You know, it's not going to take much. It's not going to take, but they'll go ahead and let him go. They just want to get the contract off the book. So I don't think you're going to have to give up much there. I think the Chicago Bears is a good fit for Cam. I search high and low of the 32 teams, and I find only one that I think would be a good fit for Cam Newton. I think Jameis Winston, to be honest with you, he's looking at a backup role at the quarterback position in 2020. I don't think anyone's going to bring him in and make him the starter right away. He's going to have to compete. I can't find one team where he's a day one starter as soon as you sign him.
How dare you? Are we forgetting that Jameis Winston had LASIK surgery this offseason? This year? There's a lot to like about Jameis. This guy led the NFL in passing yards this past year. Like, there's a lot to build off. You limit the interceptions, this guy's up there with the best in the NFL. I refuse to let Jameis back up any quarterback next year. He needs to start spot.
I love that when people say, if you eliminate the interception. What are you talking about?
You eliminate a league-leading level of interceptions and turnover-worthy plays. He's a quality quarterback. Also, the way things are going, Solly, there might be a lot of teams who would trade their starting quarterback for some toilet roll. That stuff is it's hard to come by these days. But let's pivot away from burying these two quarterbacks. There's still free agency to come. Technically, it hasn't even opened yet. But they're almost all the top-end guys have been signed or at least agreed to be signed. What are the best remaining free agent fits out there? Austin, give us somebody.
All right, I'm gonna rile some feathers here again, but Robbie Anderson, the former New York Jets wide receiver, a guy who's got a lot of speed. I think he's improved as a route runner at the intermediate deep levels of the field. He wins on the valuable routes. He can win valuable routes for you. I think Las Vegas Raiders. I know that's crazy. Robbie Anderson has some off-field, had that altercation with the cop, but I think Robbie Anderson to the Raiders, maybe not Vegas. Vegas isn't the fit, but the Raiders are the fit for Robbie Anderson. I do really like what he can do to that offense. They need a field stretcher. They need a guy that can win those valuable routes, and Robbie Anderson has done that inconsistently, but I think target share is part of that. I think average depth of target is part of that. Push the ball downfield with Robbie Anderson, get the ball in his hands, and good things happen. I think Robbie Anderson, an underrated free agent, still available. I think to the Raiders it makes sense.
Well, I'm sorry. I was going to go with Robbie Anderson as well. I think to the Philadelphia Eagles, simply because they are decimated. We know about the injuries. Deshaun Jackson was the guy who was supposed to be the one who could stretch the field for them and give that viable option as a downfield threat for Carson Wentz. But we don't know about his health. We don't know where he'll recover. I think he'll still have enough speed because I think that guy can lose a step and still be fast enough to blow by most secondary defenders. But Robbie Anderson went to school in Temple. I think he loves the Philadelphia area. That's the team that he most wants to be with. And I think he would shine because the guy is good enough where he runs double moves. He stems well enough and he can sit you down, and then he's got the speed to accelerate out of the break. He's going to make big plays of 20 yards or more where he scores very high in our PFF system. But I think he'd be good for any team as that downfield threat. That's the role that you want to cast him in. The other guy, one more guy, Melvin Gordon. No, I wouldn't pay top dollar for him, but I think he'd be great for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not on a one-year deal. And I think he would replace what Le'Veon Bell gave them because he's a good runner. He catches the ball very well out of the backfield. I know there's some head shaking. I'm just talking about as a talent. I'm not talking about throwing a whole bunch of money at him. A one-year deal, and I think Melvin Gordon would be great for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I think he could definitely replace what Le'Veon Bell gave them because so did any other running back when the situation stayed the same. We saw what happened when James Conner came in initially and replaced what Le'Veon Bell gave them. I think ultimately, the evidence just says that running backs are that replaceable. So unless he's willing to take a really cheap deal, I wouldn't make that move. The one I want to go for, though, is Chris Harris to Tampa Bay. Join in with this Tom Brady, Bruce Arians masterstroke run for the Super Bowl. I love what they're doing in the secondary. I think they've assembled these big, long, press man corners that can go one-on-one with receivers. Those guys, I think, had a combined 20-plus pass breakups over the final half of the season. But what they don't necessarily have is a top elite slot corner, which is so vital in today's NFL. That's where Chris Harris wants to go back. He wants to go into the slot and be the kind of playmaker that he was, that earned himself a chance to start outside and be a full-time perimeter corner. But he can go inside, blitz, cover, play the run, like basically recall memories for the Bucs of Rondé Barber and give them something that they just don't have elsewhere in that defense. That's where I'm going. That's my ideal fit. Let me end this thing with a quick fire, rapid speed round, and let's attack some of the deals that have been made. Let's just give us whether we liked it, whether we didn't, and a quick summation of what we thought about it. Fire through the league. Solly, Phillip Rivers, one-year deal with the Indianapolis Colts. Where are we on that one?
I don't like it. I think, my great coach, Dick LeBeau, always told me that the legs go first. That's what you need to look at with players. And Phillip Rivers had found it difficult to get the ball down the field, to get the ball out quickly. His legs went. He was on a really good roster last year. And so we talk about quarterbacks needing a good roster. He had one, and he was the liability. Listen, I don't think this is going to work, but I respect Phillip Rivers, and I can see why they gave him a shot.
I like the Phillip Rivers to Indianapolis. You heard Daniel Jeremiah on NFL Network said Phillip Rivers is fired up. He's moving his entire family out there, all 35 kids. He says it's just a one-year deal now, but he wants to see if he can do something long-term in Indianapolis. You know what he's fired up about? It's that offensive line. It's easily the best offensive line he's played against in his career or played behind in his career. I think it's a downgrade from a weaponry standpoint. T.Y. Hilton's still good, but very injury prone. He doesn't have Keenan Allen and Mike Williams with him, but I think he can do some damage in Indianapolis. I think it's an improving defense as well with Darius Leonard and company. I think this Indianapolis team, it's going to be tough sledding trying to beat the Mahomes, Breeze, Brady of the world in the NFL, but I do think Phillip Rivers, this is a better team than it was before, and I think the Colts are a better team than the Chargers were with Phillip Rivers.
I'm not sure Austin understood the concept of quick fire here, but yeah, I'm with you. Phillip Rivers, one-year deal, best pass protection he's ever had. Therefore, you're going to get better Phillip Rivers. What about Teddy Bridgewater to the Carolina Panthers We were talking about this contract before we came on. I like it. I've been back and forth on it a little bit. I think they're probably still going to use him as a bit of a bridge, but I think it's a good move. Austin, what do you think? Quick, rapid fire.
I am not a fan. I mean, right now you see reports that he's going to get $40 million guaranteed in his first 2 years. It's hard to make that a bridge, and I think it puts him in quarterback purgatory. I don't think this Carolina Panthers team right now can win now, and I think with Teddy Bridgewater, it's an interesting move. I think they were in a better spot to tank for Trevor.
I like it simply because $20 million a year in today's National Football League is clearly second-tier quarterback type money. That's where Teddy really is. Even if it works out, I still think he's a second-tier quarterback. I think they want to build with him. I don't think they necessarily want to use him as a bridge. I think this is a building block. So I think it's the right number for the right guy.
Okay, a couple of defensive moves I want to hit. Corey Littleton to the Raiders and Gerald McCoy apparently to the Dallas Cowboys. What do you think of these two moves? I actually like both of them. I think Littleton in particular is a steal, and Gerald McCoy gives them some insurance policy in case Tristan Hill isn't able to take a step forward in year two. What do you think, Austin?
Corey Littleton at the APY, the average per year he got was a fantastic move for the Las Vegas Raiders. They've made good moves at off-ball linebacker. Nick Kwiatkowski and Corey Littleton, adding both of those guys was a huge move for them. And Gerald McCoy, haven't seen the contract details out. Apparently it's a 3-year deal. Don't know where the money is, but I think they get better, replace Malik Collins with a better, more proven player. I like both of those moves, barring that Gerald McCoy contract isn't massive.
Yeah, Corey Littleton, our PFF system has him graded at 90.6 over the last 2 seasons, by far better than what the Raiders did as a linebacking core with a 38.4 passing grade last season. So Corey Littleton, we know this guy can run, he can cover. And so he's going to be the featured centerpiece of their coverage unit on passing downs defensively. So you like what he brings to the table. And Gerald McCoy is a tried and true veteran. Not as nearly as productive as he had been in the early part of his career. 5 sacks last season with the Carolina Panthers in that 1-year stint. But he gives them stability and a rotation up front for Dallas. I like it.
All right. Does anybody want to make the case that Jason Witten at this point is a good move? There's no way you do, Austin. Solly?
No. I can't go. Yeah, I love the guy, but I don't know about the production.
And you don't,
Absolutely.
Derek,
It's a lovely
checking the ball. You don't. Derek Carr,
so that's the greatest quarterback, arguably, of all time. But don't worry, because they fixed their receiving core. They've signed Damiere Byrd. Austin, you got to love this move, right?
I can't believe it. I mean, Damiere Byrd is not solving anyone's problems. I mean, he's flashed and burst. I don't think he's a bad player, inconsistent, has battled a handful of things in his career. But again, it's an interesting move. It does not save the Patriots season. I like the move because it's a cheap, low-risk move. But again, this isn't riding the ship. I mean, if he's catching passes from Jameis Winston, that's a totally different story. Now we're talking about something different here in New England. But I think Damiere Byrd, you can't hate the signing. They didn't spend a ton of money on him. You can't lose in free agency taking kind of low-risk flyers on players like Damiere Byrd.
Yeah, you go and get speed to replace maybe Philip Dorsett, but we don't know who's going to be throwing Byrd the ball. 4.2, 840. Yeah, he can run by people, but we don't know if they can even get it to him. Because we don't know who's going to be the quarterback in New England. Don't dislike it, but it's hard to get on board with what the Patriots are doing. They have really whiffed when it comes to building a roster that really makes you want to watch them.
That's about where we are with Damiere Byrd. Don't hate it, don't love it, because it's Damiere Byrd to the Patriots. So anyway, that's going to do it for our free agent wrap-up. Hope you've enjoyed listening to this marathon Tom Brady session, and we'll be back later in the day.